Hey, it's Tess. Here I am back with this book, U Squared. And today they're talking about getting uncomfortable, which I'm going to just call exiting the comfort zone. For those that have been following me, I've been talking about this book recently. And the reason I picked it up again is because it talks about quantum leaps and moving forward faster and making decisions quicker. But for me, I kind of find that it talks about quantum leaps, but I think it's really basically skills that we would all have if we stopped getting caught in patterns of the past, or if we started moving forward with guidance and mentors and taking action faster. So they call it quantum leaps. It's like the idea of 10x. So there's a lot of different people that have theories on how to move forward with whether they call it a quantum leap or a 10x or any of those things. But it's basically the same disciplines. Like my book, which is here, my book is underneath the phone right now. But like my book, I talked about mindset and I gave 7 principles, but in some cases, the same principles apply to the same tasks at the end of the principles in some cases will apply to more than one principle. And it's the idea, and actually I think it's kind of beneficial, that if we can find some disciplines that will apply and improve multiple areas of our life, that's a great idea. If the idea of a quantum leap or getting out of your comfort zone or 10xing, you can use the same skills, it kind of takes you all in the same direction. And it's really kind of the same idea or concept. It just depends on which set of words is more comfortable to you. So this particular book calls it getting uncomfortable, and I just say exit the comfort zone. Kind of all means the same thing. It just depends on what label you attach to it. And it talks about, in this book, instead of 10x, they say quantum leaps. Quantum leaps will jerk you out of your comfort zone, hence exiting the comfort zone. And it says, prepare yourself for a pretty wild ride. You're going to cover some unfamiliar terrain and encounter obstacles you've never faced before. It can feel like the safety chain linking you to your behavior patterns that worked in the past is being stretched to the limit. As time passes, you may wonder if the situation is about to spin out of control. And I'll say, there's probably only been 2 times I kind of felt like I was spinning out of control. And probably the one time was the first time I ever lost control on ice, because I was grateful that it was a practice round, because for anyone that's followed me, since I'm a northern girl, my dad trained my sister and I to go to school parking lots and practice the donuts before we ever hit a winter season, because he always said, if you don't know how to do it instinctively, it's too late. You can't think about it. You just got to know how to drive in it no matter what the conditions are. So it's about learning and practicing. It's not about taking action on the fly, not when it comes to a skill like that. But the other time I probably felt out of control and I didn't know if I was going to pull through was the zip line, because I do have a fear of heights, but because I was stuck, I didn't actually deal with the fear because I was so worried about getting to the end without anybody knowing I was stuck. I forgot to be afraid of heights. So I think it's just all those things. You face things in life and it'll give you a new set of skills. But it says, uneasiness is a predictable psychological reaction when a quantum leap is underway. So it's kind of like I've done a lot of reading and studying, and they talk about anxiety. And a lot of people, like people have tools for anxiety. They take pills, they meditate, they smoke weed, they do whatever they do to control anxiety. I use meditation and journaling, but we all have a skill to do it. But one of the biggest things that I thought was really helpful to me is somebody said that if you think about how you feel when you get excited for something, and you think about, and someone's on with me, so thank you for being here. If you think about how you feel when something exciting is happening, you get like that butterfly feeling. But when anxiety comes on, you kind of get that same feeling, but you label it different. You don't label it butterflies, but if you think about like the chemical makeup of it, it's the same. It just is like juices are running in your stomach and you get that that rumbly feeling. So are you going to label it stress and anxiety, or are you going to label it excitement for something new that's around the corner? And I think a lot of us, if we can do something a little bit different in the way we talk to ourselves, it might help us to overcome some things, maybe without needing chemicals or other things to get us through these situations. Because it's the same thing. To get to a BMI of over 60, I was self-medicating in a way that wasn't benefiting myself. So I had to learn skills that were other skills to get me through those processes. So I think for all of us, there are shortcomings, and it just depends on what are we going to use to deal with that. And as much as possible, for me, I prefer meditation to journaling, just because I don't want to go down another pattern of becoming addicted to something. And I'm not declaring things like addictive. It's just that you get in a habit of doing something. It's a discipline. You discipline yourself to good behavior, or you discipline yourself to bad behavior. So the idea here is the normal reaction is to want to hold on tightly, but you're going to have to learn to let go, because U squared is achieved through release. And I thought that's really kind of an important thing. Like, even thinking about when I was stuck on the zip line, I did want to hold tight, but I did have to actually even loosen my body up, because I can remember when I was up high, they were telling me I had to loosen the body up so that I could flow instead of being tight like a ball, because then I caused myself problems when I was trying to move forward. So you want to be able to release and to let new opportunities come in. And for a lot of us, and even for me at times in my life, that's been difficult to do. So turn loose if you want to jump. Don't be surprised if you grow uneasy. That's a predictable part of the process. When you take a quantum leap, you ride the situation, but you don't really control it all that much. In fact, the only way you control it is by 1, knowing that you're going, 2, continuing the pursuit, and 3, learning from your mistakes. And that for me was probably the biggest obstacle. I always wanted to pre-plan mistakes away. I thought if I had the perfect plan, there'd be no mistakes. And that was my mistake, because there's always going to be adjustments. There's always going to be detours. There's always going to be road construction. There's going to be doors. Some doors you're going to go through and maybe pick up one little pebble. Other ones you're going to walk through and you're going to get unbelievable amounts of information. But it doesn't, somebody told me once, if you take a training class and you get one thing out of it, then it was worth your time. Just one thing. You got to get something, one nugget out of it. And I think that that's probably true. Too often we want to see that it's going to be 5 hours of intense information. You're not going to remember all of that. Because of the number of years I tutored, really, they basically say, even in tutoring, you give them about 20 minutes, then you do some kind of a game to disconnect, and then you go back into it for another 20 minutes. And nowadays, I keep hearing that attention span is a lot shorter because of social media and the way we are technology-wise, that our attention span is very short. So you have to adapt to what the situation is and give yourself skills so that you can move forward in life. It says, a quantum leap is an act of faith, exhilarating and possibly scary at the same time. You have to give up a large degree of security and safety, plow through greater amounts of ambiguity and confusion and uncertainty, wrestle with the totally new set of problems, invite failure, and possibly contend with criticism from other people who have been part of your support group in the past. And I think that's a big thing, because a lot of people don't understand. When you're trying to push through something, especially those that have never pushed through, they don't understand the journey. So there's a lot of criticism, and you either have to tune them out or you have to invite them out of your life, because it's hard to say, but we're all here for a purpose and to grow. And if you've decided that you're going to take that and you're going to try to make the most of it, that, like I say, when I slide into home plate, I want to slide in, give God a high five, and have him say, nicely done. Well, in order to do that, I'm going to have to push boundaries. And there may be some people or some situations that I leave behind in doing that. And it's send them off with love, but it might be that we aren't communicating the same anymore. And that's okay, because they have a right to choose the life that fits them. And if it's not that we're on the same link, then I send them off with love, because it's the best gift that I can give them. So make you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. If you're experiencing no anxiety or discomfort, the risk you're taking probably isn't worthy of you. Now, that's a little painful, but it's very true. Just to repeat this again, if you're experiencing no anxiety or discomfort, the risk you're taking probably isn't worthy of you. And that's powerful. If it's not causing you to stretch, to be uncomfortable, to be seeking a little further, to try to learn something more, then you're not stretching. And if you're not stretching, you're not really living. And I don't think we were all brought here to sit in front of the TV all night long. I think we were brought here for growth, because anything, like there are studies that in DNA, what we put out into the world helps the next generations. And if you look at the accomplishments in 100 years, it gets narrower and narrower, and more and more. The window of time is more narrow, but more and more is accomplished. But I think it's because we build off of each other. So we either decide to be part of the growth, or we become part of the spectators. And that's a choice. You get to be a spectator in life, or you get to be an active participant. And that is a choice. And you have to own that choice, not as a victim. If you decide to sit on the sidelines, then that was your decision. That was my big decision 10 years ago. I was sitting on the sidelines because my BMI was such that I couldn't actively be involved. But my heart and my mind and my gut wanted to be involved, but I had to do something to make my health let me be involved. I went through some medical things that were kind of tough to get through, and by the time I was done, I was just exhausted, and it took some time to rebuild. But I'm grateful I did, because the life I live now is greater than what I even hoped for in the time after I got through that part of my journey. So U squared, or quantum leaps, 10x, however you want to call it, carries you beyond your commonplace everyday habits and calls for a little more nerve. It doesn't say mountains full of nerve, but just a little more nerve. Push yourself a little further. So just go into this expecting a touch of anxiety. Uneasiness is a predictable psychological reaction when a quantum leap is underway. And I do say, if you start to think about it as that same feeling you get with excitement, and you can turn it to excitement versus anxiety, it's a helpful tool. And that means that you're growing, because like we said before, if you're not experiencing discomfort, the risk you're taking isn't worthy of you. So if you want to see what you can accomplish, and you want to high five God when you're being called back home, and him to tell you good job, then that's what you have to decide. Is this the path that he brought you on when he brought you down here? It has been said that if you will do the thing you fear, death of fear is certain. Courage is not the absence of fear and anxiety. It's proceeding in spite of those feelings. So press on. And I'll say I've had to do that. And when I think about it, and I'll go back to the zipline episode, I forgot to be afraid of heights. And people ask me, when I got off of that, they're like, we know you were afraid of heights. Were you okay up there when you were stuck? And I'm like, I forgot to be afraid. So do I still have that anxiety when I walk up? Yeah, but I have to turn it into excitement, because I know I can make it, and I've done it before. And I'll even say, like when I rode the bicycle 300 miles for Make-A-Wish, that 100-mile day was tough. And then we had one day that was about 115 miles, because the middle day, the first day was close to 100 miles. The second day was a little more, and the third day was just a little under. But we rode 300 miles on a bicycle in 3 days. And I'll tell you, that middle day, the one year, was really rough, because we had temperatures like 110. We were in like cornfields, so it was hot, sun beating down on you. And I prayed, God, please get me to the end of this, because people had collapsed. And at that time, I didn't know I was sick. And they told me after the fact that they probably would have pulled me if they had realized what was going on internally. But I just kept pushing through. And I prayed the whole time, please, God, get me to the next rest area. Please help me to have the energy to keep moving forward. And I had certain fears, too, about the shoes, because 3 months before, I didn't own a road bike, and I had to learn how to put these clip-on shoes in and ride the bike with the clip-on shoes. And the thing about it is, when you get tired, you forget how to take your foot out, or you forget you're in these clip-on shoes, and you go to set your foot down, and it's hooked to a pedal, and you'll go down with the bike. And there's where injuries happen. But the thing about it is, no matter what I had to overcome to do it, I did it, and I should have brought it out, because I have the medal still. I was just looking at it, because I have a bunch of name tags and medals on a hanger in the bedroom. But I looked, and I still have that medal from that original ride. And when I finished that 300 miles on a bicycle, because it was rough, and they called me the Queen of the Mountain, because I had such low level of skills when I did that first year. my bike was brand new, and I kept riding, and my gears felt like I only had like a handful of gears. I didn't feel like I had 21 gears like my bike advertised. So we had motorcycle guys that were riding to check on us, and we had bicycle repair that was on the road checking on us. And I got to like the end of day 2, and I said, I just don't feel like I have the gear. Oh no, it was day 1. I just don't feel like I have the number of gears that this bike says I'm supposed to have. And the guy starts looking at my bike, and then he starts laughing, and I'm like, why are you laughing at me? And he goes, come over here. And I go, what? And he said, have you been riding like this all day long? And I said, yeah. He goes, we were on 2,000 feet of elevation. And I go, yeah, it was kind of hard. And he goes, did you walk the bike or did you ride it? I go, no, I rode it. It was like riding through mud, but I rode it. And I said, it was tough. And he said, well, the reason is you only have 8 gears, and they're the hardest 8 gears to ride on inclines like we had today. And he told me it was 2,000 feet of elevation because we were up in the Traverse City area. And he said, I cannot believe that an inexperienced rider rode that way. And he goes, how did you do it? And I said, because I didn't know any better. I had no idea it would be any different. I didn't know there was an easier way. So he fixed the bike. And then for the rest of the ride, he'd ride up to me and he called me Queen. Hey, Queen, is there anything I can do for you? How's that bike? Do you need me to repair it? So it caused him to look for me and to make sure I was okay for the rest of the ride. But it was also the big joke, too, because I rode in the worst possible day in the hardest gears, and he was blown away by it, but I didn't know any differently. I just pushed through because I didn't know it was supposed to be any different. And I will say it did get easier when they took the gears to the right, till when I got access to all 21 gears. But I didn't know, and because I didn't know, I just kept pushing. And it's a thing that I'm so proud of now, that like when I first got the medal, because at the end of this bicycle ride, because they raised money for Make-A-Wish, and it's Make-A-Wish lets a child have a dream or a wish so that they're terminally ill, chronically ill. Some of them don't make it, but many of them do. But they're so involved in medical issues and their whole families, they try to give them a wish, something to look forward to, something to hold on to, something in that point when they're really dealing with tough medical things, that they have a goal or a dream or a person that was meaningful to them that they got to meet in person. So it's in giving them, we raise money to give them those wishes and those dreams to help them move forward. And the coolest part is when you finish that 3 days, when you come into the finish line, the wish children that have gone on wishes are actually on the stage to present medals to you as you go through. And Dexter, I forgot to go to YouTube. I'll do that tomorrow. But it was the coolest thing, because these wish children who are terminally ill and dealing with medical conditions and dealing with doctor's appointments and in some cases cancer treatments. Some of them don't make it, but many of them do. But the whole idea behind the Make-A-Wish is to give their family a wish, something to hold on to that feels good in those difficult times when these kids are dealing with medical issues. And when you get to the end of that 3rd day and you've ridden 300 miles on your bicycle and one of these kids puts that medal on your neck, it's a feeling that you'll never get anywhere else. And I carried that medal in my pocket for a month after I finished that ride. And I rode it 2 years in a row. And then I volunteered to be SAG, which is the rest stops along the way. I did that for 2 years too. But it's in that you can push forward. Like they say, U squared, quantum leaps, whether you want to call them quantum leaps or 10xing, moving forward, pushing past boundaries. As this one statement says, if you're experiencing no anxiety or discomfort, the risk you're taking probably isn't worthy of you. And that's the one great thing that I am happy about in the years since, because it's been 9 years. I'll be going into year 10 in the fall. But in the 9 years since I took a hold of this journey and lived it differently, I have lived it differently. I have left W2 worlds. I have joined in, I added it up, and for the Money School crew, I've attended 22 events since things opened up after lockdown. But those 22 events created relationships like Dexter and a gazillion people. Every day I hear from somebody else who's going to come to Dallas, and it's like a reunion of friends, and then we get new friends at the same time. But it's also giving me chances that when I think I can't do something, there's always somebody going, you got to be kidding me. You think you can't do that? And then it's like, well, if they think I can do it, I got to at least try, right? And I think that's part of what it is. They tell you, you become the least of the 5 people you surround yourself with. If your people are the ones that are not following the dreams that are worthy of them? Is that what you want for your life? Because we get to decide, are we going to watch people create the life of their dreams or create magic? Or are we going to create our own magic? And it's back to one of the quotes from one of the mentors at the very first experience that I went to in Buffalo. And he said, either you create the life of your dreams or you help somebody else create the life of their dreams. And I've come a long way and put in a lot of hours and a lot of time and a lot of medical stuff to get to this point. And while I hope that what I'm doing is helping other people achieve their dreams, I have to also be working towards my dreams, because I do believe it's possible in helping others that you can help yourself to achieve the things that bring you joy in life. And so we can all, when we're called home, slide in, high five God, and have him tell us what an amazing job we did. You guys all may have started sooner than I did, but I may have got a late start, but it just kept going. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Your support throughout the years has meant much to me. And if any of you want to get more involved with the infinite banking process, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you. I got involved 5 years ago. I have 3 policies, and I am a life agent now. I'm appointed by 2 insurance companies now, and I'm licensed in 7 states. So I'm definitely down the road on that. Anything I can help you with that. The others, my book is underneath the phone, so you'll have to wait on that. But anything I can do to help, I am here, because in helping others, it also helps myself. And reach for it. Don't sell yourself short. Reach further than what you think you can, because I think you'll find what I found. There was a lot further that I could have gone that I just didn't realize, because I let fear and anxiety stop me. And what I'm going to do now is, whether I want to call it U squared or quantum leaps, or just changing that word anxiety to excitement, I'm going to look at things differently and reach for more than I've ever reached for before. So again, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.